Hi everyone, it's Natalie and welcome back to my channel. Before I get into today's video, I just wanted to remind you all that down below in the description I will have links to resources you can use to support the Black Lives Matter movement. But let's get on with this video. In today's video, I'm going to be reviewing Darkdawn by Jay Kristoff. I did not enjoy this book one bit, and this is gonna be kind of a rant review because honestly, there was so little about it that I enjoyed that I just needed to talk about it, and I'm sorry for all of you who enjoyed it, but that was just not me. A small disclaimer before I get started on this review. I am someone who loves Jay Kristoff's writing. I really do. I know the man has said and done some questionable things, especially on Twitter, but when it comes to his writing, I really do enjoy it. I read Nevernight and God's Grave, and I gave both of those very high ratings because I really did enjoy them. I was super invested in the story and in this world that Jay Kristoff had created. So this review isn't coming from someone who was like a hater of the series from the beginning. I really wasn't. I was ready to love this book and it just didn't happen. So please keep that in mind. So let's get started. Let's see if I managed to edit this into the beginning of the video, because when I started this video I did not describe what this book is about, but mostly it's because this is a spoiler review, so if you're here you should know what this series is about. But just in case you just want to see a negative review of Darkdawn for some reason, even though you haven't read the series, in Nevernight we're basically following our main character Mia, who is trying to become an assassin. Her parents were murdered when she was a child and she's trying to avenge them. So she joins this assassin school in order to become a really badass assassin and kill the men who killed her family. In the second book, we follow Mia as she joins the Gladiati and fights them in order to be closer to killing the two men that she wants dead. When that doesn't quite work out, we go into Darkdawn, where we're essentially following Mia as she continues to try to kill these men, and as a result does a bunch of interesting things, joins a pirate crew, etc. So that's kind of like what this is all about. The first thing I'm going to be talking about is the writing of this novel. Now, in Nevernight and God's Grave, I was a total slut for the writing style of it, okay? I loved the footnotes that Jay Kristoff had in the novel. I really did. I thought it enriched the story. I thought it was interesting and fun. I don't know. I really liked them, and I thought in general his narration style was kind of my brand. He was clearly trying to go for something with the way he wrote this story, and I appreciated that because I really do enjoy novels that are written in a particular and stylized way. The problem with this third novel though is that it was just too meta, too self-aware. Jay Kristoff just went off the rails with his self-awareness of like, look at how quirky I'm being, and it just did not work for me. It kind of ruined the whole thing for me. I think the main thing that made me not enjoy it is that the characters themselves were talking about how shitty the footnotes were, and it was just bizarre because okay, what happens in the novel is that the characters find copies of the first two books, so it's kind of like the book is within the book, and so they start reading Nevernight and God's Grave, and they have all these witty reactions to the writing style of the author, and they're kind of like, oh, this jerk, like who does he think he is? And I'm like, sir, did you really have to do that? Jay Kristoff, did you really have to go to that point? Like, it was enough with the narrator himself trying to defend himself and being like, well, you think I'm funny, right? I'm just gonna keep doing my thing. I'm like, okay, that's fine, because it kind of goes along with the persona of the narrator anyway. But having that combined with the characters in the novel talking about the narrator, that was just too much for me. I was like, sir, take it back a notch, calm down. Someone needed to stop him, okay? Someone needed to tell Jay Kristoff, please stop being so extra, okay? Just stop being so extra. The second thing I'm going to talk about is the characters. Now, if y'all read God's Grave, you all know that that book finished with the big reveal that Trick is still alive. And now when I read Nevernight, I really liked Trick. I thought he was cute. Like, he wasn't like a new favorite character or anything of that kind, but I liked him. I was like, it's nice. He's nice. It's fine. So I was really, I don't know, I felt mixed about Trick coming back to life, but I thought I'm gonna hold back judgment until I know what Jay Kristoff does with his character in Darkdawn, especially since I picked up God's Grave and I already knew Trick was alive because I had seen the spoilers all over Twitter, so I was like, okay, fine, I know that at some point Trick is gonna show up. I didn't know it was gonna be at the end, but whatever. The point remains. I picked up Darkdawn and I was really looking forward to seeing Trick, but really, Jay Kristoff just did Trick dirty, okay? He did Trick dirty. The way Trick was behaving with Mia, I was like, how is this the same boy we met in Nevernight? Because it did not feel like it. He felt very, what's the word for it? I don't know, he couldn't take no for an answer. He kept bothering Mia. He kept saying things that I was like, can you calm down? And he had this whole spiel about like, oh, I love you so much. I came back for you, Mia. And I'm like, what? Why? Why? No. So in general, I just felt like Trick's characterization just did not work, okay? It did not work, and it was just disappointing. It really was. And I feel similarly about the characterization and the relationships with Mia and Ash. Since book 2, I had issues with the relationship between Mia and Ash. I never really saw what they saw in each other. Like, sincerely, I did not get why they were into each other. It just never made sense to me why Mia would date the person who murdered Trick. And I know that Mia's very self-aware about this and she does think about it a lot. And eventually she's like, you know what? I just love Ash, so whatever. But I'm like, but I don't get why you love Ash. It never clicked for me. And in this book, they're trying to pretend like they would do anything for each other and they don't want the other person to die. And it's so dramatic. And I'm like, why? This whole book is just me going, why? How? I did not see this at all. So that's why I felt both with Ash and Trick, like their feelings for Mia were just a question mark for me. I'm like, why are you both so like invested in Mia? Like your relationship wasn't that deep. Like with Ash and Mia, literally all they did was share pretty words and fuck. So I'm like, how is that conducive to me being attached to y'all? Because I don't see it. I mean, usually I'm a stan of like when characters share like really pretty speeches with one another, but they just didn't work with Mia and Ash, okay? They really did not. All I was doing that whole time, I was like, really? Why are y'all saying this? Again, there I go with the why. It's just why. The whole thing is why. And since we're talking about characters, let's talk about the fact that Trick, Ash, and Mia all die and come back to life. Why? That's just gonna be the motto of this video. Why? I really don't like the resurrection trope. It's one of my least favorite tropes ever. It's one of the major points of why I've stopped either watching some TV shows or reading some book series, because once you resurrect characters too often, I'm like, then where is the tension? Why do I give a shit? One of the reasons I felt so betrayed by all the resurrection is because all this time, Jay Kristoff has been lauded as like, oh, he's not scared of killing off your favorite characters. But he is though. Otherwise, Trick would have just stayed dead, Ash would have just stayed dead, and Mia would have just stayed dead. Instead, Trick comes back but eventually returns to being dead, so like, whatever. And then Ash dies, but she comes back the same way that Trick did. And Mia dies, but the god brings her back, and I'm like, okay? Again, I'm like, if Jay Kristoff really wasn't scared of killing people, I mean, in his books, if he wasn't scared of that, then they all would have stayed dead, okay? They did not all of them have to come back, okay? Trick could have just stayed dead, Ash could have just stayed dead. If you really wanted Mia to stay alive, fine. But like, all three, no. It was just unnecessary, and it removes tension, because if you know there's a possibility of characters coming back to life, why would you be scared of them dying? Like, now let's talk about some of the themes in this book. One of the major themes is clearly family, or familia as they would call it in the series. But it just didn't sit right with me the way that it happened in this book. Like the way it was discussed, it was kind of icky. Like a lot of this book focused a lot on how blood makes family. And I'm like, why are you trying so hard to invalidate the experience of having someone raise you and that person being considered your parent. Like, why are you trying so hard? Why? Like, I understand it's a complicated issue, and it's an issue that I haven't experienced myself. So I felt kind of weird talking about it in my Goodreads book review, but at the same time, it was something that bothered me, so I felt like it needed to be addressed. And I do think that J. Kristoff tried to make it like a complex issue. He did try to address how Mia was raised by the man who she saw as her father and who was her father, that I would consider her father, which is, what was his name? Corvair. Whoever his name was, Corvair. And then with Mercurio, both of them were father figures to her. Both of them helped to raise her, so both of them count as her fathers. Anyway, but then we find out that Mia is biologically related to the man that she's been trying to kill since the beginning of this series. And all the time she calls that man her father, and I'm like, okay, I don't know. Maybe I'm out of my lane. I don't even know. I just know that it was strange and I didn't like it. But if someone who has actually gone through the experience relates to it, connects to it, etc., amazing, fantastic. It was just strange reading it as someone who very much values adoptive parents and the whole process of adoption. And I think there's so many books that like try to invalidate the people who raise you that I'm kind of like, I don't know. It's just something that's touchy for me. I don't even know why, again, because I haven't had the experience, but whatever. Another of the themes that really got to me, is it even a theme? Whatever. The chosen one trope. In this book, we have finally the chosen one trope, and it did not work for me. Did not work for me one bit. I'm not the hugest fan of the chosen one trope. I don't hate it entirely, but it's not really my jam. Not really, honestly. I prefer like the reluctant hero or like whatever. But here, finally, we had a chosen one narrative, and it was strange. I mean, the book tried to be kind of meta about it, kind of be like, oh, she is a reluctant hero. She doesn't really want to save the world. She's not the best person. Why would she save everyone? But then at the same time, she is a good person. Like, she's doing bad things, but ultimately she's a good person. So it's kind of this whole thing of like, you can't really say she's that much of a reluctant hero when at the same time you're trying to say she's a good person. It was just strange. And listen, I don't know if I'm reading too much into it. I don't know if I went completely unhinged while I was listening to this book, but I felt unhappy about the whole point of this novel essentially being that our female main character is putting back together a male god. Like, that just gives me vibes of like, women have to save men, and if they're wounded and hurting, women have to put them back together. And I'm just like, what? I don't know, it just didn't sit right with me. It really didn't, especially because Mia has like a turbulent relationship with the female goddess, the main female goddess. And I'm just like, did it have to be this way? Did it? Truly? I don't think so. And the fact that the previous person that was like Mia was also a woman, and she went insane with power, and she had a son, and it was the son who was able to guide Mia into being able to restore this god, that I was just like, I don't know about that. That's kind of giving me strange vibes. So I don't know. Maybe I am insane. Maybe I lost my mind while I was reading this, but I really couldn't help doing a kind of low-key feminist reading of this book, and I did not like the result that I got. That's it. If it has not been clear, I rated this book 1 star because I just didn't like any part of it, okay? Originally, I rated it 2.5 stars because I was like, well, some parts of it were good, and the writing itself objectively isn't that bad. But then I sat down to write my Goodreads review, and everything I had to say was that I hated everything about this book, so I was like, well, I guess 1 star it is, because I wish this book didn't exist, okay? I really wish this book didn't exist. I loved Nevernight and God's Grave so fucking much. Like, they had their flaws, but I still thought they were solid books, especially books in a series. So I was just so disappointed by this one. I was like, why did it have to end this way? Did it have to end this way? So I guess for me, this series is kind of bittersweet because I guess I'm gonna have to blot out Darkdawn from my memory if I want to keep the fondness that I have for Nevernight and God's Grave, because really it was not for me. It just was not for me. If you want to know the only thing that I enjoyed about this book, it would have to be Mia and Jonan's relationship and Mia's friendship with the Gladiati. Those were the only two things, which are all character related, that I enjoyed. Because seriously, it was really cute to see Mia and Jonan reconnect and try to form a sibling relationship, especially since they grew up separated from each other. So seeing them come together and start to build a strong sibling relationship was really nice. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie, it was really nice, and I really enjoyed seeing the conflict that Jonan felt between, this is my sister that I didn't know I have, but this is also my father who my sister is trying to kill, and how am I supposed to deal with that? How am I supposed to overcome the fact that I'm scared of my father, but he's my father and I love him, and I love my sister because she's been good to me. I wouldn't say kind. Mia has been kind of rude to Jonan, but whatever. The point is, he's trying to reconcile both these things, and I thought that was very compelling and interesting and pretty well done. Not perfectly, but pretty well done. And with Mia and the Gladiati, I just like their friendship. I like their dynamic. I think they're fun together, and I think they make for really interesting scenes. So with them, it's not that deep, but it was enjoyable. I really did like Mia and the Gladiati hanging out. Well, not hanging out, but like interacting with one another. That was good. So anyway, that's all I had to say about this book. I don't have anything else to say. If the structure of this was kind of messy, it's because I had a lot of feelings, but not all of them fit neatly into categories. But I do think I tried my best to keep it as organized as possible. If you read this book, let me know down in the comments below what you thought of it. Were you one of those people that really loved it? Or were you like me and didn't enjoy it? And if you didn't enjoy it, what were your reasons for it? Because they might be completely different from mine, and I'm curious about what people might not like about it or what they did like about it. Anyway, that's it for today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If you would like to follow me on any of my social media, I will leave the links to that down below in the description. But for now, see you next time.